Well, what a beautiful day live from Oslo, the capital city of Norway. It's stop number 4 of 8 on the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series and the midway point of the 2022 season. Trace Worthington here alongside Joey Zuber and 55,000 spectators. Glad to have you with us. This is the 5th time the World Series has hit Norway, but the first time at this location, the Oslo Opera House, home to the Norwegian National Opera and Ballet, and today's home to Red Bull Cliff Diving. And Joey, for the first time, this building, spectacular building, has been used for an official sports competition. Way to go big, Oslo.
If you're going to host a first-time sporting event, this is the way to do it. And a venue like this is what I like to call a cliff diving auditorium. Let's talk about the relationship between the spectators and the athletes. That's worth mentioning. The spectators are being treated to an incredible art form.
In Boston, USA, was the season premiere back in June. That kicked it off with the Eiffel Tower as the backdrop. Paris, France hosted stop number 2. And then the last stop took place in Copenhagen, Denmark, off their famous opera house. That theme continues here in Oslo, Norway, which is halfway point of the season, as I mentioned, and stop number 5. The World Series heads back to Mostar, Bosnia, and Herzegovina off the Old Bridge. Sissikon, Switzerland, beautiful stop. Number 6 there, and after that we celebrate 9 years of the World Series visiting Pognano a Mare, Italy. And the grand finale will take place in Sydney, Australia, overlooking their famous Sydney Opera House as the backdrop. Epic locations, to say the least. And Joey, after 3 stops, 3 different men have won. This is interesting.
At the first stop in Boston, young Aiden Heslop comes bursting onto the scene with a message: the new kid on the block is here, and he means business. The next stop in Paris, France, in front of the iconic Eiffel Tower, with an emotional victory for Cattle and Preda, and done in style with a record competition score. Then in Copenhagen, Konstantin Popovic braves the challenging conditions for a deserving win and adding yet another name to the list of winners this season. Then a slightly different story for the women. First stop, Boston, the season opener. Molly Carlson didn't hold anything back and came out of the gates hard and fast to stand the number 1 position. Then in Paris, Rhiannon Ifflin, 5 times World Series champion, had the answer to Molly Carlson's challenge, and that was, of course, with a win. And then just to make sure the pressure is maintained, Rhiannon Ifflin secured her 2nd win of the season, and that was in Copenhagen at the previous tour stop.
And that brings us to here in Oslo. The platform itself has its own personality. Built 2 hours away, delivered on one piece on a barge. It's a 65-meter boom from the barge that hoisted the 30-meter, 98-foot-long, 2-ton platform.
Yeah.
Joey, so that means the walk to the end of the platform is longer than the descent into the water. But give us the diver's perspective on this and what they'll be facing. I mean, you can't tell me, Joey, that it's a comfortable, unfrightening situation.
Well, I can tell you it's not suitable for a catwalk of a fashion show, that's for sure. And as you can see, as they're walking down this narrow platform, to the left and to the right is the concrete. You actually don't overhang the water until you get down to the last 2 meters. Now, this is the little trapdoor that you enter to go down to the women's platform, white-knuckling it on the way down to the platform. So they're 21 meters high. As always, a pretty daunting view, the bird's eye view.
And that was Xanthia Panisi of Australia giving us the point of view. And there she is getting warmed up. And in fact, we also heard from the Aussie who is climbing the ranks. Here's what she had to say about things going on lately.
I actually never knew about cliff diving 6 years ago. I had no idea it was a sport, and then a few times some of the cliff divers came to train in Brisbane at my pool. I did gymnastics and a bit of diving beforehand, and then I saw them doing that and I was like, oh, I actually want to do that sport. And then I worked my way up, so probably from 10 metre to 12 metre, 15 and eventually 20 metres. And that's how I got into cliff diving with Red Bull. I am a bit scared up on the platform. Like, I figured I have a fear of heights, even though I'm doing this sport. When I first started competing, I would put a lot of pressure on myself. I figured, like, just being in the moment helps so much. You're not thinking about the future or the past. Times where I, succeed is when I'm in the moment and not caring and enjoying myself. I take my time, but I feel a lot more comfortable up there now, and I feel more confident with all my dives.
Xanthi Panisi has her work cut out for her. She runs number 6 in the women's side of 12, coming off that podium finish at the last stop. Also marks the 40th World Series competition for the women since their introduction in 2014. Orlando Duque, our sports director, said, in terms of difficulty, the women have raised the DD, Joey, and 4 rounds of diving have already happened.
Okay, we're watching round 1.
Oh, sorry, 4 rounds.
4 rounds?
3 rounds have happened. Take us through.
So round 1, running with the confidence. So she placed 2nd at the previous competition in Copenhagen. So she was in the top 3 there after round 1. Watching round 2 now and shaking things up. New contenders on the scene. Canadian Amy Harrison slotting into 3rd after round 2. And then none other than Rhiannon Ifflin, round 3, putting the pedal down with a huge lead after round 3, 20 points ahead of Molly Carlson. And that is exactly what she wants to do coming into the 4th and final round, putting the pressure on the other divers to come. Beautiful scenes there, Trace. Look at that.
55,000 fans coming into Oslo. It's the first time at this particular location. What a spectacle. And here are the World Series standings. After Copenhagen, Denmark, you have Rhiannon Ifflin, 2 wins, and a 2nd puts her into a comfortable lead. Carlson's win at the season opener, followed by a 2nd in Paris, helped her cause. Ellie Smart having a consistent season. Strong top 5 within striking distance of the lead, with 5 events remaining on the World Series. And for those of you hoping to get up to speed quickly on how things work with Red Bull cliff diving, Joey and I have your back on how it all goes down. All right, first off, 8 men, 8 women are permanent divers in the 2022 season. 4 wildcard divers. Those seeking to earn full-time permanent positions are added at every stop, which brings the total to 24 athletes per stop.
It's 4 rounds of diving, each of them being judged, and every dive counts. It's only 3 seconds to judge a diver's execution. And that includes the takeoff and the dive points, position in the air, and of course the critical water entry.
And the scoring is straightforward. 5 judges present a score between 0 and 10. The low and highs are tossed, the remaining 3 multiplied by the degree of difficulty of the dive, and then that equals a total score. So clearly, Joey, the more flips and twists, the higher the DD, degree of difficulty, which you'll hear us say.
At every World Series stop, 4 total dives make up the final score, and points are awarded at each stop. Then they're added together, which goes towards the World Series rankings.
And the silk ribbon of cliff diving and reserved for the cream of the crop, the King Kahekili Trophy. For the overall title is awarded in honor of the great Hawaiian chief who launched feet first from the massive Hawaiian lava cliffs in the late 1700s. Only 4 events left after today in Oslo to earn points and grab that prestigious King Kahekili Trophy. There are the judges: Olivier Monod of Canada, Antonio Martinez is here, Cyril Mechkan, Julian Linus, and Marian Reif of Austria. Great crew of judges, world class. And they're down there on the left-hand side. Beautiful weather, 24 degrees Celsius, 72 degrees Fahrenheit. All the spectators, once again, 55,000 of them enjoying it. The water temperature, 20 degrees Celsius. Perfect conditions and perfect weather, Joey, and we love to say this, no excuses, absolutely 0 for the divers to put on a show.
Complete contrast to the previous competition in Copenhagen. Very strong winds, very cold, super warm, flat, calm water. Looking forward to seeing some incredible rip entries.
And here are the start lists. So after 3 rounds of diving, it's the lowest score that will run first out of Genevieve Bradley of the United States. And there you have Xanthi Panisi, who we met earlier in our feature, running 6th. Amy Harrison diving well, the Canadian, run number 7, right on down to the top 3. Ellie Smart will run 10. Molly Carlson and Rhiannon Ifflin. The rival continues between those 2, but Rhiannon Ifflin comes into the 4th round as the leader. Of course, Orlando Duque, Red Bull cliff diving legend and pioneer, our new World Series sports director. You know, past World Series sports directors, Joey, including the great Nikita Fetatov, Olympic champion Greg Louganis, and a role clearly filled by icons of diving. Orlando will be down there just making sure everything goes smooth. Gives a lot of advice to the divers, as we'll see throughout the competition. Everything floating possible with 55,000 fans packing the Norwegian Sea and the fjord right here, the Oslo Opera House, Midtown. Genevieve Bradley will kick things off in the fourth and final round on the women's side. She has the lowest degree of difficulty in this round. An average needed for second, she needs 8.4s from the judges. 30-year-old from the United States. Somewhat of a typical gymnastics style. She and her boyfriend got into bachata dancing recently. Did I say that right? Bachata. Bachata. Here we go. So Genevieve Bradley of the United States will kick things off for the fourth round of the women.
As we said earlier, beautiful conditions. Genevieve Bradley. This is the optional dive round. So optional dives means that we're pushing the limits in terms of degree of difficulty. So as the round progresses, we're going to see a lot more somersaults and twists. So the more somersaults and twists that you add the higher the tariff. So this is a 1.5 twisting double. So the athletes are landing feet first, and that is, of course, because of the height, 21 meters,
right.
71 kilometers per hour upon impact. It is tough. So you can't do as many repetitions in the sport of cliff diving as you would, let's say, in the discipline of diving from 3-meter springboards or 10 meters. So that impact, that load, up to 10 G-forces when they hit the water, is incredibly tough on the body. They need at least 2 to 3 days of rest and recovery after the competitions.
It's her 5th career start on the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series. So she comes in with a 60 on that particular dive. So when you add all 4 scores together, 221 for Genevieve Bradley of the United States, who will set the pace and tone on the women's side. And again, a beautiful shot of the Oslo Opera House. That long 27-meter, 90-foot platform for the men. For the women, 21 meters, 70 feet. Excuse me, that was the platform off the water, Joey. As far as the distance for the women, 21 meters, 70 feet. Here we go. Maria Paula Quintero.
Big degree of difficulty. You can see the tariff sliding up there.
And right there, a bit of a splash, Joey. And for those new to the sport, you see that large splash. You see traditional diving at the Olympic Games and other major events with FINA, and you see the splash, and the first thing you think, will that be a huge deduction for the athlete? Unfortunately,
it will be. I mean, the judges still need to look at the takeoff, the flight. Is the takeoff nice and strong? Let's have a look. She throws her arms. Yep, pretty strong takeoff. Like to see the tuck position, which is that ball shape, a little bit tighter. But when you're rotating that fast, that's 4 somersaults. One of the first people in the world to perform this dive. We call it a quad half. The aerial awareness is pretty tricky. You've got to get it just right. Split seconds to pick the right moment. She holds on, looks at the water, and kicks out there. She comes out quite late to maintain that rotation. If she came out earlier, she would have slowed the dive down. So once again, split second judgments. That's what it comes down to. And just around about 2.6 seconds of free fall.
So you see the 5 judges holding up the scores. The high and the low are tossed. The remaining 3 multiplied by the degree of difficulty. So on that 4th dive, she gets a 61.50. And then rolling it all up, all 4 added together, 223 for Quintero. So there you have it. Right now, the leaderboard after 2 divers have gone. Ifflin still holds down the lead. She hasn't even taken her 4th round dive yet. Beautiful beach right there that they built only a little over a year ago. allowing fans to see the world's best, including Iris Schmidbauer, 27-year-old Germany. Recently won the U.S. High Diving Challenge last weekend in Park City, Utah. Gained some confidence there. Her second start this season as a wildcard diver. Oh,
Yeah,
putting
yes.
one down. There you go. Iris Schmidbauer.
Well done,
Absolutely
Iris.
zero splash.
With really, really high degree of difficulty, 4.3. And you combine that with great execution. And she disappeared there. And that's the way to impress the judges with a rip entry. A rip entry signifies that tearing sound when you tear it through the water. Actually, it's incredible when you're on site, the sound when they nail the dive. That's what you really notice about the sport. Beautiful low angle here, the twist at the beginning, the pike in the middle, coming around for the all-important Barani at the end of the dive, which is a trampoline maneuver. So the sport of cliff diving is a combination of diving and trampolining. The first part of the dive here is traditional diving. 1.5 twists at the beginning, coming out wide with the arm to stop the twist, into the pike. The eyes spot the water, doing the half turn. The reason they do the Barani, the half turn, is to keep their eyes on the water for as long as possible to help line up. So of course, you're looking to try and be as streamlined as possible. Got to have all the arms, everything tucked in, feet flat to make the hole for the body to pass through for a beautiful entry. Iris Schmidbauer, pretty high scores.
Schmidbauer, her final dive, and then it rolls up to 262.45. So that'll be the leading score after 3 divers. Our next diver, Yana Natsirava. Beautiful shot of the capital city of Norway.
I'm jealous. I want to be out in the water. Look at the crowd.
So now we have Yana Natsirava. 7 podiums in her career. Very consistent diver. One of the only women on the start list who has competed here in Norway, actually. That was in 2014 when the women made their debut on the World Series. A very experienced diver. Arguably the most of any other female, regardless of results. She's ranked number 9. Another diver who needs some strong results, Joey, as this is stop number 4 of 8 with no drops this season. So this is when a lot of the divers have to step on the gas pedal and earn some points.
That you do.
Look at that, the Oslo beach packed with people.
So Yana preparing for a running takeoff. She won't stand on the end. She'll run and approach the end of the platform.
Wow.
Yes.
Very nicely done. And Joey, why, the question is, again, if you're just watching this for the first time, the running start versus standing there in an isolated position, how come all the divers don't do a running start?
Well, it depends what you're comfortable with, but performing the running takeoff, why they do it is to help generate a little bit more height and a little bit more rotational speed. So as you run towards the end of the platform, you start with your arms above your head. That helps generate the rotation. In other words, it gives you more time at the end of the dive to make those adjustments. If you're finishing low, it's really, really tricky. That acceleration curve, which we'll touch on later in the show, is incredibly quick. So throwing there into the twist, coming into the pike position. And as we said before, Yana, an extremely experienced athlete. She's very good at handling all those different conditions. She's performed in shows around the world, diving in shallow water, deeper waters, hot climates, cold climates, and the scores.
It's a good parking spot for the judges, by the way, right there.
Yeah, not bad. I'm digging it.
Moving in. That's Yarava, the experienced one, 95.55 on that dive. Once again, all 4 are added together for 275.85. So that puts Natsiorava in first place on the women's side. She is 4th to go of 12. And next up, Jessica McCauley from Montreal, Canada. 29 years old, currently tied in 3rd place in the overall World Series points with Ellie Smart. She found the podium for the first time this season at the last stop in Copenhagen, placing 3rd. And Joey, let's see if that boost of confidence is what she needed for the rest of the World Series. Once again, the women's platform, 21 meters, 70 feet off the water. And Macaulay, beautiful in the air, Joey, and how about that entry? That is how you get it done right there.
And let's talk about how elegant the dive was in the air. One of my favorite dives to watch. Back triple pike. She's got those very long, lean lines. So the judges are looking for the aesthetics of the dive. Are the legs straight? Are the toes pointed? Yes, they were, and she finished the entry beautifully. These particular dives, aerial awareness and spotting the somersaults is absolutely crucial. You have to know where you are in the air at all times. Watch the head here. The head will tilt back once it sees the water, and then twice she sees the water. Actually, she might be seeing the platform underneath, so sometimes the divers will use different objects. There's two main things that will always be in the same position. Number one is the water. Number two is the platform. So there's two different points you can look at to help orientate yourself in the air. And if you lose that spot, let me tell you, you're in trouble.
You've been there before, Joey. 104, that's a big score on that optional round dive, and that'll put Macaulay of Canada into first with 293.20. And she is happy with that. So Macaulay in red right there in the lead. The faded divers have already gone. The deeper colors in blue are the divers who have not gone yet. Rhiannon Ifflin still in fourth with a 258.20, and she hasn't even gone yet. Huge walk to the platform we spoke about, Joey. The 30 meters, 98 feet long, and then the women have to open the hatch right there and climb down. You don't want to have sunblock or oil on your feet coming down that ladder.
No coconut oil, people.
And Panisi, you know, we talk about all the divers having unique backgrounds of where they came from in acrobatics, and Xanthia Panisi coming from the gymnastics background, transferring to diving.
Yeah, it's pretty common. So sometimes they come from trampolining, various acrobatic sports. Gymnastics tends to be a pretty common one for people to make the transition to diving, and then she went from diving, of course, and ramped it all the way up to 21 meters in the sport of cliff diving.
And improving by the stop, logging a 6th, 5th, and 2nd at the last stop in Copenhagen, which was a career best finish, currently ranked number 5 in the World Series points. She needs an average of 8.2s from the judges to pull into the number 1 spot. No going back. They've already done 3 rounds of diving. This is round number 4. Panisi of Brisbane, Australia, sending it. And how about that dive, Joey? Your thoughts?
Oh, it's been a bit of a rip fest the last few dives. You need to make up for a little bit of lost ground from round 3. Great stuff. It's such a relieving feeling after the dive. You have all this pressure and nerves before the dives. You understand the consequences, and then after the dive, there's a sense of elation and relief.
And at this point of the season, Joey, you know, it's really, we're starting to see who can handle the pressure and the variety of conditions and locations and the elements.
That's right. Physically, very demanding season. As you were saying before, we're at the midway point of the season, so rest, recovery, making sure you maintain your strength training is absolutely vital. So now the sport of cliff diving, they spend a lot of time working on lower heights. They need to work on the takeoff. They need to work on the acrobatics. They need to spend a lot of time working on the entry, the strength and conditioning training. Also the mind, visualizing the dive. You have to work on the fact that you need to picture the dives perfectly in the mind to help the execution. And the execution in that case was wonderful by Xanthia Panisi, and the scores reflect that.
91.2 on that one. All 4 together. Loser in a second with 291.70 behind Jessica Macaulay. A little bit different scenario from gymnastics to diving when the women are dropping. Once again, Joey, 21 meters, 70 feet. Gymnastics, not that high, so she made some nice adjustments into cliff diving since a youngster. And here we go, back to the top of the women's platform. We have Amy Harrison of Canada, the wild card diver. And a wild card diver are those who got invited, so it's those who have a shot, only several times, maybe one time during the season. There's 8 permanent divers on the men and women's side.
So watching Amy Harrison, the first woman in the world to do this dive. Front quad half, that means a front 4 somersaults in the pike position, so she'll keep her legs straight. Also another running takeoff like we saw with Yana Nesteriava.
We spoke to her yesterday, Joey, and she had trained one in Park City, Utah, and then she trained one here. So this is number 3.
This is pretty fresh.
This is very fresh.
So huge degree of difficulty. She can move into the lead. She scores 7s from the judges.
Wow. Oh,
yes! Amy Harrison with the front quad and the fist pump. She hit it when she hit the dive. You know, when you land, you hear the water rushing past your ears. There's the backstroke of relief.
Absolutely sending it. And like a perfectly swished basketball entering the water on that difficult of a dive, Joey. Put that into perspective.
Vanishing act. Nice flat, calm waters, which helps with the rip entry. Watch this. 1, 2, 3 coming out. And the 4th somersault is the Brani.
Wow.
And for her 3rd time performing this dive, that is absolutely remarkable. It's great to see newcomers on the scene pushing the level of the sport. Now with these particular dives in the pike position, it's a lot easier to feel where you are in the air. If you're doing that dive in the tuck position, which is the ball shape, it's a little bit harder to pick the spot to come out of. She will get a few little deductions there for the form. You can see the legs bending a little bit, but nonetheless, a brave performance.
Not huge scores, but once again, behind the lower toss. The remaining 3 multiplied by a massive degree of difficulty gives her a 92.4. So that rolls up into first place nearing the 300 mark, 2 at 99. Amy Harrison relieved after that dive. And Joey, she told us she feels more comfortable with that difficult dive than some of her others, which is interesting.
And each athlete actually has their own preferences. So some like to rotate inwards or backwards or twist. So you've got to go with what feels comfortable. And if that feels comfortable, that's what you got to do. Well done, Amy Harrison. What a performance here today in round 4.
Let's send it down to Dave O.C., who's with her.
Amy, what a spectacular performance. A new dive. Talk us through it and how you were feeling before you actually leapt into it.
Well, I guess this is my 4th time doing the dive, so it's a little overwhelming to come to a Red Bull stop and compete a brand new dive, hardest dive. And the crowd here, honestly, if it was a different stop, I'm not sure it would have gone the same way. Everyone here, the vibe is amazing. So much positivity. Everyone's into it. The cheering is loud, and it's just so much fun to be here.
And what about the fact that you're a wild card and this being the highest DD dive in this event? Was that a bit of a tactic?
No, it's a dive I've been thinking about in the back of my mind for a while, and I didn't have a very tough list before this, so it was just a logical next step, and I'm really happy that I finally was able to take it.
And how important do you think progress is to push the sport to bring in new dives? Is that vital?
Oh, completely vital. I mean, the men have really upped the ante in the last couple of years, and I really would like the women to follow, so lead by example, right?
Thank you so much, and congratulations.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dave. And Joey, I mean, 55,000 fans here in Oslo watching this. I mean, the nerves to do that. I mean, it must be crazy for her to stand up there and do it in front of this 3rd time of her career, the most difficult dive that she's ever done, and it's the most difficult dive on the women's side.
It can be nerve-wracking being in front of that many people, but at the same point in time, it really provides a lot of energy and enthusiasm for the athletes, helps them rise to the occasion. Just look at that, the whole harbour lined with people witnessing the world's best cliff divers. What a spectacle. What a performing art in front of the Opera House here in Oslo.
Antonina Vishavanova, the wildcard diver. Arm stand dive coming up, Joey, and the wind has picked up. Look at that, 23, 24 adjusting, a little gusty.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, let us know what that's like with, you know, basically in a handstand. You know, that when you're 21 meters, 70 feet off the water.
Not that easy. The only arm stand dive in this round as well. So in Copenhagen, we saw incredibly high winds. Now, when the wind becomes very gusty, that's where it becomes difficult. It looks like it's fairly steady and consistent. She's very experienced and generally has a very steady handstand, so she needs to take extreme care here.
Married to Nikita Fetatov. We'll see him on the men's side shortly. Her father Oleg competed in the first year of the World Series back in 2009. I would imagine that this is not a dive you want to rush, Joey. You want to make sure it's perfect, especially with that wind picking up. This is where you don't want the 55,000 fans cheering too loud.
Silence, please.
Here we go. Wow. So Fetatov putting one down, managing the wind nicely there.
But showing no signs of trouble in that handstand. That was so impressive. I mean, most people will be shaking their boots just standing on the platform, let alone performing the arm stand dive. So this highlights how much training has to go into the sport. They're spending hours upon hours in the dry land, we call it, which is a gymnastics hall, working on the handstands, working on the takeoffs. Quite often they spend a lot of time doing somersaults on the floor to work on the power. And once again, as we said before, some divers prefer different types of dives. Some prefer handstand dives, some prefer twisting and somersaulting. The part of the dive that I like about Antonina is her form. Those toes just curled right over. And so cliff diving is in the family, as you were saying. Her father and husband Nikita Fetatov as well. They love cliff diving.
First female athlete on the World Series, hailing from Ukraine with a 61.05. Remember, all four dives are added together. So Fetatov with a 267.75 will move into 5th place. Amy Harrison still in the lead with 299. A lot of strong divers yet to drop. 4 left. Don't forget to follow us at Red Bull Cliff Diving on Instagram. Check out Red Bull Cliff Diving Facebook page and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Great photos, videos posted over the past several days and today from here in Oslo. And all season long as Miguel Garcia from the United States, a wild card diver, 34 years old, who turned some heads after placing 3rd at the first stop in Boston, Joey.
That she did, and she didn't have any expectations on herself, and sometimes that's the easier thing to come into the competition as the underdog. No expectations, and dove incredibly for that 3rd place finish. Look at the degree of difficulty. Tariff there, 4.3. So as you're getting towards the red there, of course, increasing the DD. 4.5, the maximum currently. She's right up there. Need 7s from the judges to sneak into the lead.
Carpenter, that's how you get it done as a wild card diver right there if you want to earn a position as a full-time diver. She's the last wild card diver to drop in this 4th round before we get into the top 3 qualifiers.
Maylee Carpenter on fire. Now, she's an athlete that feels very comfortable in these conditions, so she's performed in a lot of shows around the world, sometimes performing at nighttime, shows like the House of Dancing Water, which is a bit like Cirque du Soleil on water. Has a lot of climbing experience as well, so she gets to the platform and she feels, like we were saying before, comfortable. And that's the thing that you need to do. When you get to the platform, you've got to get the heart rate to rest a little bit. Trust me, your heart rate is racing when you're up there, especially performing dives like that. Amazing.
Bunch of 8s across the board by the 5 judges, so lose 2 of them, keep 3, multiply those by the degree of difficulty, which was huge. The 2nd, we're tied for 2nd as far as the highest DD in the 4th round of the women, 3:14.10. So Miguel Garcia of the United States now on top with 3 divers remaining. Ellie Smart, Molly Carlson, Rhiannon Ifflin coming up next. 55,000 fans in the capital city of Norway here at the 4th stop of 8 in Oslo. And here is Ellie Smart. 21st career start on the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series, really has moved the dial when it comes to helping the progression of the sport and the pipeline of the sport. Building the high dive tower out in Park City, Utah. A lot of divers. She had a competition there last week. A lot of the best divers in the world were there. And we're going to look at her heart rate now. Resting heart rate is 47, Joey. Beats per minute. We'll kind of keep an eye on that, which is always interesting to see when their heart rate goes up or down. My heart rate would be high just walking to the end of the platform. So Ellie Smart delivers one here with 2 remaining. And we'll see how that goes over with the judges.
Competition's heating up. And if she wants to slide into the #1 position, she would need 8s from the judges. The entry looked pretty good. They've got to look at all components once again. Is the takeoff powerful? Is the form in the air correct? Ellie Smart, she really impresses me, how she's managing the competitions and all the training camps and training the new generation of sport. And then she has to change her mindset to get into competition mode. It's not an easy thing to do, so such an impressive entrepreneur. But Ellie Smart is having an outstanding season, the best season of her life so far in 2022.
I asked her why she was so consistent this year, and she just said all of the coaching that I'm doing, some of the higher level athletes, some of the juniors, has really inspired her and just made her a better diver. And she moves into second with a 3:10 even. So Bailey Carpenter, fellow American, in the lead with 3:14.10. So Bailey Carpenter once again earning another podium position. The question is, what will it be with 2 divers remaining? Molly Carlson, Rhiannon Ifflin coming up. Carpenter on top, 3:14. Smart in second. Harrison in third right now with 2:99. McCauley getting bumped off the podium by Ellie Smart. And now we look at Molly Carlson, MC, winner of the first stop in Boston, backs it up with a second in Paris. 4th in Copenhagen. Ranked #2 in the overall series points behind Rhiannon Ifflin. We saw the dive by Amy Harrison, Joey. That is a dive that also was performed by Molly Carlson in training. She's not going to do it here, but keep an eye out for our stop in Sisikon, Switzerland, where she's going to break it out there. She needs 6.7s as an average by the judges.
In other words, 7s from the judges. If she gets that, that means she'll be in first place. Got a new dive up her sleeve, and she's going to pull that out when the time is right. Maybe in a few competitions' time.
And who's she pointing to right now, if you're new to the sport?
Okay, the scuba divers. So they're the rescue divers. So she's just positioning them so she feels comfortable. They can also be an aid to help see the surface of the water. You'll see them splashing the surface. Doesn't make it any softer. Let's break that myth right there. It's all about seeing the surface, being able to differentiate between the surface and the bottom. Time to dive.
Rated in the air, it is a throwdown showdown on the women's side. Bailey Carpenter, she likes it. She knows that that can easily pull into the #1 spot. What do you think, Joey? We're talking about those averages by the judges. Will that pull into the #1 spot?
Molly Carlson is the complete package. She's so dynamic when she dives. So when she takes off from the platform, gets into that ball shape, the tuck position, everything's fast, everything's dynamic, everything looks smooth. Everything transitions from one maneuver to another seamlessly. There's the 1 somersault, then 2, she kicks out, pikes out of it, which is a sign that the takeoff is strong and powerful. She used to be a track and field athlete, so she's got those powerful, fast twitch muscles, and you need that. You need explosive power in this sport, and to receive scores like that.
All right, she'll drop an 8 and a 7.5. Keep the remaining. Remember, 4 dives, all of them count. In her 4th round dive, which you just saw, she'll earn a 89.30. So you saw the averages by the judges, and that'll do it. 3:27.55 for Carlson of Canada. Guaranteed a podium, guaranteed second. And Maylee Carpenter of the United States guaranteed a podium. The strongest competitor on the planet on the women's side in cliff diving coming up next. And that is Rhiannon Ifflin. She's won the last 2 stops. She's got a lot of stuff going on in between, having some fun. Doing some projects on the side, celebrating here by diving Joey off the historic full-rigged ship in Oslo called the Christian Radich back in June.
Celebrating, huh? That's pretty good.
Get it? Celebrating?
Funny.
It's like celebrating, but sail, yeah.
I like it. Yeah, cool.
She said, she seriously said this was a great opportunity to push her boundaries as a diver. It's like a 3-masted vessel there, Joey.
Wow,
if I'm not mistaken from my sailing background growing up.
Incredible scenery.
Yeah.
Talk about a
celebration.
Yeah. Pretty scary stuff walking on that mast. Rhiannon Ifflin in a familiar position, going last in the round.
Final woman before we move on to the men. The awesome Aussie. Average score needed 5.4. That shouldn't be a problem for the best diver on this series for 5 years straight.
Ramping up the crowd, lapping up the energy.
She shared the overall 2022 series lead with Molly Carlson leading into the last stop, and after the win, she now holds down the lead solo. As I always like to say, high diving and cliff diving's most decorated female athlete. Carlson in the lead, 3:27.55. Can Ifflin win 3 straight? We'll find out. And in typical fashion, Molly Carlson will be bumped down to second, no doubt after that. Maylee Carpenter looking on, and Rhiannon Ifflin, unbelievable.
I mean, Maylee Carpenter was in disbelief, and she's saying to herself, how is it possible to be consistent, but not just consistent, consistently brilliant? I mean, to execute dives like that time and time again, and that's why you shake your head and just think, how does she do it? How? Well, I'll tell you, raw talent, hard training, the combination between being an elite trampolinist, an elite diver, and a strong mind and the capacity to handle pressure in competitions. She's the complete package. Back triple somersault with 2 twists, doing the twist at the beginning, the pike. Because she's a trampolinist and accustomed to landing feet first on the trampoline, she knows how to find that vertical line. In trampoline, you've got to get to absolute vertical when you land on the trampoline bed, and that has transferred so well for her into the sport of cliff diving. But what a raw talent. As I said before, consistently brilliant. Rhiannon Ifflin will win here again today.
30 podiums out of 32 starts. 25 World Series events of 32 that she has won. Make it 26, folks. Rhiannon Ifflin. And for this season, make it 3 for Rhi. The hat trick.
At midway point of the season as well, that's what she needed to do. Pretty impressive. The first stop, of course, was Molly Carlson taking the win. And she put her foot down and said, nope, watch out.
So there you have it. Final results on the women's side in Oslo. Before we get to the men, Rhiannon Ifflin, the 378 giant score. Molly Carlson, wow, still back and forth with Ifflin and Carlson, but Maylee Carpenter, how about that? Charging towards that full-time permanent position for 2023. Now, with 2 podiums this season, both third-place finishes.
Yeah, I'd say it's likely we'll see her next year as a permanent series diver, and rightly so. Doesn't have a lot of competition experience, but she comes with a lot of talent and great execution.
All right, let's head down to the water. She is with Dave O.C. Dave.
Rhi, another victory. I'm hearing the guys say 3 for Rhi here in 2022. How was it competing in Oslo?
Yeah, look, it was amazing. I think they said that these have been the best days of the summer so far, so I think we're really lucky, and the energy was so nice up there. You know, I was really drawing in from them.
And what about all the other women who are pushing you this year? You know, often you're kind of clean sailing, and I know today you did an amazing job, but there's some amazing divers. The degree of difficulty is rising. Is that going to change things up for the rest of the season for you?
Yeah, I think it is, you know, but I mean, I'm always just focusing on what I can control, and that's my diving. So I do have some goals, and it's certainly very motivating to see all the girls like hammering down huge dives. So yeah, really exciting.
Amazing. We'll enjoy the celebrations, and thank you so much.
As we mentioned, 3 for Rhi. Joey, just break it down once again. What makes her so spectacular and getting up on top of the podium every single time?
Raw talent, as I said before, and just exquisite execution. I mean, she rarely misses, but just everything comes together at the right time. This is the inward triple half, the half signifying the half somersaults at the end of the dive. That was round 3. And then round 4, back triple somersault with 2 twists, digging deep, and she was in a commanding lead after round 3. She was 20 points ahead of Molly Carlson. So with high DD, or high degree of difficulty, she secures the win in front of a huge crowd, 55,000 people here in Oslo here today. And wow, what a spectacle for them.
And that exhibition last year and really got people fired up, and this year an official competition on the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series. And right there, Opera Beach, a 100-meter long beach that opened up a little over a year ago, and a little celebration on the women's side. And then we'll get right into the men's competition, their 4th and final round. Maylee Carpenter, 3rd place.
Wasn't sure which way to stand. She was like, this way, that way, this way.
She's only had 2 podiums in her career on the World Series.
Yeah, you got to get some practice in, you know.
Rhiannon knows exactly where to go every time. Carlson of Canada having an outstanding season and really putting the pressure on Rhiannon Ifflin. Rhiannon Ifflin can't back off at all during these competitions with Molly.
So I believe in Sisikon. She wants to try the new dive, the front quad somersault in the pike position. It's a little tricky in Bosnia with the situation with the short platform. So she'll just hold off, stick to the same dives. And then tour stop 6, so she'll bust out the new dive, increase the degree of difficulty. Of course, she needs to get the execution right. And the woman for today, Rhiannon Ifflin, in a familiar position, winning yet another competition. How many in total, Trace?
Number 26 of now 33 events. And that makes it 31 podiums out of 33 starts. She had a 78% chance of winning today.
That's a good betting odd.
Yeah. So Rhiannon Ifflin, 30 years old, of Newcastle, Australia. The awesome Aussie, diving sensation, the dominator from down under. Once again, on top of the podium, putting on a great show in front of 55,000. Looking comfortable, looking strong, and on her way to a 6th King Kong Healy Trophy if she keeps up the momentum at the next 4 stops. So Ifflin now way out in the lead with 760. Halfway through the season, and Molly Carlson doing a great job hanging in there. Ellie Smart, wow, she has been consistent as well. In 3rd right now, Jessica McCauley. In 4th, and you see all the way down to 8th with Yana Netsiarava. So an outstanding women's competition here in Oslo. As we are midway through the season, the men are coming up next. Before we get to the men, let's send it down to Dave O.C. Waterside with the legendary Orlando Duquet.
Orlando, we've just seen an amazing spectacle in the women. Now, before we get into your analysis of it, what are the challenges here in Oslo?
You know, here in Oslo, we have this really long platform, and so it kind of changes your visuals a little bit. You know, you find this reference point, but with this long platform, it's so much distractions around you. So they've been dealing with it since day one. By the competition, which it was today, they had it already.
All right, and now, after watching the women, how do you think it went? How's it shaping up for the rest of the season?
For the women, it went really good. I think, you know, halfway through the season, we start to see them saving their bodies a little bit. You know, they're not practicing so much. They're making sure that they're keeping the bodies healthy so that it can last all the way through the season. High level of competition. You know, they've been doing the work up until now, and it's showing.
Thank you so much for your insight.
All right, thanks, Dave. Great words from Orlando. Doing a great job as our sport director at all the stops, and continue answering questions for the viewers, Joey, regarding the sport of cliff diving. We're taking a deeper dive into specific topics at each stop called methods of motion. What do you have this time? What's it called?
It's called the way down trace.
Ah, I like it.
As with many action sports, they spend roughly 3 seconds in the air performing their acrobatics and then preparing for the landing. But the way in which cliff divers spend their time in the air is significantly different. Now, with snowboarding, as an example, they are catapulted with the aid of a ramp, and they flip and turn their way up to the apex, which can be up to 6 or 7 meters from the tip of the ramp. And this is combined with considerable forward motion or angular momentum, and then gliding down for the landing. Whereas cliff diving, the way up to the apex is only 1 meter, which makes it a terrifyingly fast downward journey from 28 meters. All the skills have to be done with an exponential acceleration curve with very little forward momentum. In other words, basically, it's a vertical drop. And to give you an idea of the acceleration curve, the first 10 meters takes 2 seconds. The time it takes to travel the remaining 17 meters is just 1 second, and the speed of impact reaches 85 kilometers per hour, and the deceleration of impact, Trace Worthington, is an immense 10 G-forces.
You are so brilliant at that, Joey.
Thank you.
I learned
Did you learn
so
something?
much every time, yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you did.
Look at
I
that.
don't normally listen, though. I'm not very good at it.
Look at the spectacle here once again. It's the first time that this event has taken place, 5th time in Norway, but the first time here at the Oslo Opera House. 55,000 fans packed in. Great women's competition with Rhiannon Ifflin taking the top spot. Now it's time to get into the men. Warm temperatures, no wind right now. World Series standings. A name you don't normally see on top is Catalin Preda, and the name you normally see is Gary Hunt. Not this season. 3 different winners so far this season, really mixing up the top of the men's overall standings. 5 stops to go when you include this. And here's what went down earlier. 3 rounds of diving, just like the women. And for the gents, before their 4th and final dive, Joey, break it down.
I simply love watching this dive, the inward flying front.
It's my
And
favorite.
check out the entry on this dive. He scores 3 10s. But then have a look at this. His Romanian counterpart says, okay, have a look at this. And now on this particular dive, Konstantin Popovic also scored 3 10s on this.
Yeah.
And they were tied for first after those dives. Simply incredible. The 10s just keep pouring out of them. And then Gary Hunt notching up his 10 belt. 57 10s in total, so 2 10s on this particular dive. So this is the intermediate dive round, forming a front quad somersault there. And then Jonathan Paredes, how about this, on the comeback trail.
Wow.
2nd after round 3. So that is absolutely fantastic for Jonathan Paredes to get the dives back and to perform them like that with fantastic execution. Well done indeed.
Yeah, super stoked for Johnny, having some problems, just some mental blocks since the first stop of last season, and he's chipping away, working through them. And right here, this should give him a boost of confidence. But crowd anticipating the men's competition. Nate Jimerson of the United States will kick it off. He had the lowest score after 3 rounds. So his first running order, the highest score after 3 rounds will run last. You see Konstantin Popovich, not used to running number 5 with the way he's been diving. We'll see what he can do in his 4th round dive. And there it is, the top 3, Alessandro Torose, Jonathan Paredes, and Gary Hunt. Those are your top 3 qualifiers. Never leave out Gary Hunt, even though he's not leading the overall series as he normally is.
But if he stays consistent and some of the other athletes falter, watching Nate Jimmerson here marking out his run-up.
His dream came true several months ago when he was offered a position to perform in the famed Cirque du Soleil O show in Las Vegas. He spent 6 months doing that, replaced somebody, followed it up with a huge win last weekend at the U.S. High Diving Challenge last Sunday, actually. Huge confidence from that, and he's now part of the Big 6-0 club doing some hard dives. Is he doing that in this 4th round?
Unfortunately not. He did a previous round.
3rd round.
He should have thought about us and the spectators, and he should have done his big dive.
I know.
4th and final round.
No.
He's, you know, like, you got to
Come on, hook us up.
give us something. Nonetheless, still huge degree of difficulty, a running takeoff.
Men's platform, 90 feet, 27 meters off the water. Boom! Nate Jimmerson. And if you're going to run first, which means you came into this final round with the lowest score, you got to throw it all out there.
And that he did. I mean, that was just action from start to finish. Those particular dives, you're so busy, you have to work so hard at every single stage of the dive. Everything has to get broken down. So a similar dive to Alexei Podigrov as well.
You know, he told us after performing, you know, in O that it made him feel comfortable.
Yeah.
We had 55,000 fans here, and he just said, I really feel comfortable in front of people now. I under pressure, right?
Yeah, and I think within the shows, you have to dive in a time slot. So you've only got this little time slot to do your dive. And so that helps him get into the mode of the competition, because when it's time to go, you've got to be there and ready.
Right. You can't just wait around and be patient.
No.
Not in a performance like that.
There's a certain time limit for each dive. So Nate Jimmerson, big smiles and extremely relieved. It's a huge dive. Pretty scary stuff up there, 27 meters.
35-year-old American comes in with the 105 on that last one. 308.70 will be his total. So if you just joined us, getting underway with the first male competitor.
Ellie Smart gets some airtime there.
Yeah, there she is. Yep. And then all 4 dives are added together for the previous rounds. We are in the 4th round of diving. It's an optional round. Still have to tell us what they're doing and performing, Joey, but nevertheless, you can do the hardest dives you have in the bag. Now, the first competition, at least in the World Series on Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series, in his 40s is Blake Aldrich, the Brit. Turned 40 years old 9 days ago. Soaking it all in. Now a wild card diver. He had 2 shots so far this season to prove his value and earning back that permanent diver spot. He placed 8th and 6th, which, you know, with Kulturi out, really, Blake is ranked number 2 amongst the wild card divers in points. So Blake could be looking at. Oh, okay. How does this all work? The wind, Joey, or wasn't feeling comfortable?
So when you actually press into the handstand and you come back down, that means there will be a 2-point deduction from the judges. So they'll judge the dive as per its execution, but then they'll take 2 points off. So it's a bit of a shame that happened for Blake.
Blake Aldrich getting it off this time around.
But a great reset by Blake Aldrich. Yes. Oh, I love seeing the energy.
Get all fired up.
Yep. A little high five to the safety divers. But a good reset after coming down on the handstand, because sometimes you can get really disappointed with yourself and get frustrated. But he put it behind him and performed a great dive there. So that was called a balk. He performed the handstand and come back down again.
I mean,
can't stand it.
it's a bummer he was deducted for that, you know.
I know.
You're doing a handstand dive 90 feet, 27 meters above the water.
Oh, it's happened to me before. I remember doing a dive in a competition, getting 9s, you know, but I actually balked. You're like, man, if I had balked, I would have been there. Blake Aldridge performing very well at 40 years of age, and we're talking about rest and recovery, so the only real difference is his acrobatic ability and speed is all still there, but do need to spend more time resting and recovering after the competitions. Most of the athletes spend about 3 days of complete rest after the competition to let the muscle soreness come down.
When we spoke to him, he was funny. Speaking, of course, in the Blake third person, said,
Yes.
you know, the old dog Blake still has it at 40.
Yes,
He told
yes,
us.
yes, he does. Middle-aged dog, we'll call him.
3:08.90 when you add all four together. Blake Aldridge, 40-year-old, and
The war wounds.
yeah,
Yep.
there you have it. And here is our next diver, third to go of 12, Alexei Prigorov, 35-year-old. Ukraine Olympic bronze medalist from Beijing 2008 in the 3-meter springboard synchro competition. So he has that background as a 3-meter springboard diver. And Joey, the methods of motion, you were talking about that sort of that trajectory, and so, you know, much different than just dropping from the platform.
Yeah, with springboard diving, so you can see here they're rotating on the way up and then on the way back down. And obviously with cliff diving, most of the rotating is done on the downward fall, but he's an incredible 3-meter springboard diver, but it's not an easy transition from springboard to cliff diving because it's a fixed surface. It's a completely different style of diving, or high diving or cliff diving.
Just tuned in, the length of the platform, it's the longest in the history of the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series at 30 meters, 98 feet long. So you can see the back of it where all the divers are staged in that area. Right there, Nikita Fetatov standing on the stairs. He is next, but going all the way out there with that wind picking up, boy, that must be really intimidating.
And we were talking to the chief engineer in charge of the whole project, and he was saying that to install that long platform, if it's more than 4 meters a second, it's a no-go. He was basically saying the platform would fall off the crane and into the drink and zero competition. So they had to have the perfect conditions to install the platform.
How'd you like to be that crane driver?
It'd be terrifying. Don't stuff it up.
He said, and he also said, he's like, and he couldn't break a window in the Oslo Opera House
Because they don't make that glass anymore. So if you break one of the windows, they'd have to replace the entire building. Just a little bit of pressure for those guys.
Prigorov really taking it all in. 55,000 fans here at the Oslo Opera House. Opened up in 2008. An auditorium that seats over 1,300 people. The exterior surface of the building covered with Italian marble, white granite.
You've done your homework, Trace. I mean, you've actually researched, huh?
Yeah. They also made it to appear as if it's rising from the water, is what the architect really wanted.
I learned something.
If you can't tell, yeah. Prigorov. What's he got in the bag of tricks? Oh, and that right there, Joey. So I got more stuff for you.
4 somersaults, 2.5 twist in the pike position. Just 5s from the judges to move into the lead. Again, the run up. The run. Start with his arms above the head. Throw forwards. Here we go.
Oh!
Alexei Prigorov throwing it down. A-OK sign from the scuba divers.
As Joey Zuber always says, gracefully cutting through the water right there. But that, again, you can't help for a little bit of a splash coming out of the water, again, when you're dropping that fast, 27 meters, 90 feet off this platform.
And we've spoken to him about this, and he was saying this dive is so heavy. When you come out of the twist right here, you have to use a lot of abs to dig deep. He said every single part of the dive, every single stage, you have to work incredibly hard and making adjustments. So as soon as you take off the platform or the midway point of the dive, sometimes you can feel if you're fast or slow. You're always making adjustments right to the end.
The high and the low scores are tossed out, the remaining 3 multiplied by the degree of difficulty. So it's a hug from his wife, we just saw competing. And Antonina, 99, or excuse me, gets a from his friend. Don't want to start any rumors, Joey.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't hear that.
Prigorov moves into the lead, 3:37.95. Next up, Nikita Fetatov. Prigorov, by the way, who we just saw, the only Olympic medalist to compete on the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series. So Hunt still in second place with his first 3 dives. He hasn't even taken his 4th yet. 3 down. Nikita Fetatov is number 4. He logged his first podium of the season and the 3rd of his career at the last stop held in Copenhagen, placing 3rd behind the resilient Romanians, Popovic and Preda. Got a haircut, didn't like it. Dyed it blonde.
Didn't like it.
That's what he told me. That's what he told me last week. I'm just telling you his words. He dyed it blonde, and then he said that didn't really work out either.
Yeah, he copped a bit of flack for that, but anyway.
He looks like a singer named after a candy. I'm not going to say his name.
If you pick a bad barber, you got to live with it.
The women finishing up their competition, looking on, cheering on. The men, great camaraderie amongst the divers.
Yes, Nikita Fetatov, his wife Antonina Fetatov.
Now we got it right. Now we got it right.
Yeah, we're not mixing it up. Okay. Let's not cause any problems.
Unbelievable dive.
Wow. Now Nikita Fetatov. We saw him try this dive in Utah in preseason training. He went a bit cross-eyed after that one.
Yeah, he did.
He took some hard hits learning this dive, so you have to do a lot of preparation from the lower platforms. I mean, I'm talking about he really got knocked around. A lot of people would shy away from that, but no, he persevered. So when you're learning these new dives, sometimes you have to just push through. It doesn't always go your way. And he's managed to put that behind him and concentrate and think about the task at hand. Quite often when you're trying out these new dives, you tend to rush on the platform. You tend to get into it too early. Now he's getting to the point where he's feeling a lot more comfortable with the takeoff. Wonderful scores for Nikita Fetatov.
Great scores, a bunch of 8.5s across the board. He'll keep most of them. He'll drop one of them. And a 130.05, an absolutely massive score for his optional round. And that'll easily pull him into the top spot with a 368.45. So Fetatov now in the lead. Prigorov in second. Hunt in third. He hasn't even taken the 4th round dive yet. So all in dark blue are the divers who we are yet to see launch from the Oslo Opera House. And speaking of opera houses, this guy, Konstantin Popovic, won the last stop off the Copenhagen Opera House. He's like the conductor. He likes the opera house scene. He also won the Oslo exhibition stop last season, but this was in Copenhagen, Joey. Really just nailing it there under all the different conditions.
One of the few divers in the 6.0 degree of difficulty club. A supreme athlete.
So, second highest DD in the round, and he is going to need it. Why? Because right now he's sitting number 5 after the first round.
Look at the tariff there in the left-hand corner of the screen, 6.0. The maximum being performed currently, 6.2. And that's by Aiden Heslop. So we're really pushing the limits here.
Popovic currently ranked number 4 in World Series points, mainly because of a poor result at stop number 1. He's picking up the pace. Tell us how difficult this is, Joey, on the end. There's grip tape, but you're still a little bit of wind, 27 meters, 90 feet off the water. Wow. Beautiful shot. Coming in, a bit of a splash. Joe, you say sometimes a heavy landing when you see a little bit of the water being displaced.
And that came from being short of vertical, so that's diving terminology. So we're looking for the vertical line. That's the ideal situation that you want to be an athlete. Nice and vertical. You'll see at the end of the dive. Landing short of vertical, but the degree of difficulty is absolutely massive. 6.0. You can see him coming around here, spotting the water. You can see the water hitting him on the chest a little bit, and you feel that actually. Feel it in the neck. Actually, the next day after the competitions, pretty common to be sore in the neck. But what impresses me about Konstantin Popovic, he's so athletic. He's still competing in diving competitions as well as cliff diving competitions. But his mental attitude and his perseverance and his toughness is just outstanding.
Nearly earned a spot to the Tokyo Olympics 10-meter platform. He did the 2008 Olympics in Beijing. He told me he wants to compete again in Paris 2024. Moves in a second with that, 3:47. Not the result Konstantin Popovic wanted, a guy that we build as a huge contender to win the King Kakili Trophy in this 2022 season. So with 4 events remaining, he has some serious work to do on the result side of things. As we go back to the top now, here's Owen Weymouth. First time we've seen him this season, the wild card diver, only 22 years old. 9th start in his career, again on this particular World Series. Another arm stand dive. Weymouth going quick and drilling the landing on that one. So Owen Weymouth taking advantage of the one stop that he has this season. The first stop anyway. Ellie Smart, he's engaged to her. We just watched on the women's side. And I caught up with Ellie last week and talked to her about Owen. Owen's passion is just being, you know, a big project cliff diver. Likes traveling around the world. Doesn't take competition too serious. Doesn't take his results too serious. He just really gets around and wants to show off and display the sport of cliff diving around the globe off of different surfaces and different platforms, bridges, everything.
Yeah, he's got a huge following. He's got some very, very, very famous cliff diving videos on the internet. One where he's running off the rooftop of a house with this incredible POV shot, or someone following him behind.
Ooh.
So the, yeah, a little bit shorter vertical there. Great to see Owen Weymouth this season. Big hug from Ellie Smart, the fiance. She's proud of him, no doubt.
Both of them running that competition last weekend, doing a great job, giving some of the youngsters a shot. 3rd place.
Bit of emceeing by Owen Weymouth too.
Yeah, he was emceeing there. Yeah,
got the microphone.
He did a nice job, I can tell you that. All right, so Fetatov, 3:68.45 in the lead. Popovic in 2nd. That puts Weymouth into 3rd with 3:46.0. Coming up next, it's another wild card diver in Miguel Garcia. 455,000 fans here at the Oslo Opera House. Longest platform to date at 30 meters, 90 feet. And Miguel Garcia, 31 years old. Miguel's wife is the mother of Maria Paula Quintero, you see right there. So Maria's stepfather, she looks on. Quick on that, but no splash. Absolutely tearing into the water. Electrifying dive by Miguel Garcia, the 31-year-old Colombian.
Miguel Garcia resides in Cali, Colombia. He's running a very successful diving program with some junior athletes. He's a great coach, and obviously coaches Maria Paula Quintero.
He went. He went quick there, so did the judges. And Miguel Garcia, nicknamed Flaco, which means skinny.
That is. Inward quad half, so in the sport of cliff diving, you have to show different rotational directions. So when you're standing backwards and then rotating in towards the platform, they call that an inward takeoff. So we can't just do forward rotating dives or reverse rotating dives. Reverse is when you're standing forwards and then rotating back towards the platform. So you need to show a variety of skills as part of the rules and regulations in the sport of cliff diving. Great entry, Miguel Garcia, showing off his coaching skills and putting it into practice.
Best result ever right here, 94.60. So Garcia moving in a second with a 358. So once again, the wild card divers putting some pressure on the veterans as Fetatov, who's a permanent diver, in the lead, but Garcia in second with Weymouth in fourth. Great competition brewing so far. Miguel, 7 to go of 12. And here we go with the World Series leader at the moment after the first 3 stops. 3 podium finishes. Not easy to do in cliff diving with all the different things that can go wrong in cliff diving. He's got a first, a second, and a third.
Yep, third. He took that in Boston, but in Paris, in front of the Eiffel Tower, you could see how much it meant to him. A very emotional win. And then second place in Copenhagen. So the only man to be on the podium at all competitions so far. Holding strong with the series lead so far.
Peretta, followed by Aiden Heslop, Alessandro De Rose, Jonathan Paredes, and then Gary Hunt. So getting down to the top qualifiers on the men's side. And the degree of difficulty, 5.1. Needs an average of 5.1 from the judges. Based on what
judges judging half numerals.
Current leader Nikita Fetatov, 368.45. Here we go.
Showing us why he's had 3 podium finishes this year. Catalin Preda on fire. We were talking to him in the pre-season. A lot of the divers were planning to throw down some huge degree of difficulty dives, and we're asking him, are you going to step it up? And he says, no, I'm just going to stick with the dives that I've got and go for maximum execution. And talk about execution. This was outstanding. Extremely powerful takeoff, great elevation. But look at the legs. Look how tight the pike is. So if you're in the pike position when you have the legs straight and folded against the body, the closer it is to the chest, the higher the marks. There's the twist. So it's a really hard part getting into the pike. He's squeezing as hard as he can. At that point of the dive, your arms almost want to throw off your legs. There's so much rotational force.
Wow.
So impressive to make those calculations and to get an entry like that, and they love it.
Oh, 3 9s, an 8.5, and an 8. So that will easily pull into the top spot for Preda. 135.15 on that optional. 426.15. So the mountain for Heslop, De Rose, Paredes, and Gary Hunt just got much steeper.
Yeah, if you're in that kind of 430, 425 range, that's getting up there. So that means the divers to come, they have a lot of pressure. They have to perform under pressure.
That including the youngster, the youngest one on the men's side, 20 years old. Aiden Heslop, currently ranked number 2 overall in World Series points behind Preda. And look at that, off the charts. Right there, almost off the chart, 6.2 highest DD.
Well, he's capped it out, the hardest dive. Currently the only person in the world performing this dive. Front 4 somersaults with 3.5 twists.
How do you get it all done?
Aiden Heslop, it's an incredibly fast twister.
There's his heart rate. Beats per minute, 155. It's interesting to see the fluctuation. Resting heart rate of 46. We'll see. Could be adrenaline, nerves, anything that is bringing it up.
He's got to get 7.5 from the judges.
Beats per
Move
minute.
ahead of Peretta.
Beats per minute going up, Joey. Do this. A lot going on in the air.
Oh.
Squeaks his feet underneath him just in time. And his girlfriend, Molly Carlson, cheering him on. Both of them won the first stop of the series in Boston. And as I mentioned, Joey, I know that you have 27 meters, 90 feet to complete this, but there is so much going on with this. How do you fit it all in?
The advantage with Aiden Heslop, one, he's incredibly powerful, but what he's known for is his fast twist. It's incredible how fast the first part of the dive is. So what he's choosing to do at the beginning of the dive is the twist. So he's running, he's got a skip jump here.
No springboard there.
Hurtling in, the arms throw forward. Watch this, and he wraps right into the twist. Arms across the chest, so he's keeping everything nice and tight into the body, and then digging deep into the pike position. Incidentally, he just dove in the Commonwealth Games in Birmingham, and he had to transition to diving headfirst from 10 meter, and he had the highest degree of difficulty diving the competition over there as well. So what an athlete, being able to transition between diving and cliff diving. Forwards tight.
133.30, so you look at those averages, that'll do it. 427.70 for Aiden Heslop with 3 divers remaining. So the question is, will that hold? We have DeRose, Paredes, and Hunt coming up.
Wow, he just snuck ahead just by 1 point. There's nothing in it.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing.
Great men's competition so far here. 55,000 fans. Trace Worthington alongside Joey Zuber. Thanks for hanging with us so far. We are down to the top 3 men in this competition. It is stop number 4 of 8 in this season. And now DeRose, Mr. Consistent. So far, he's at a 4th, a pair of 5th place finishes. Call him Cinco DeRose. He's currently 5th in the World Series. A lot of 5s. Top 5 in nearly 50% of the World Series events he's entered since his debut in 2013.
His execution lately has been absolutely outstanding.
Strongest wins so far, Joey. Will this affect it?
He's a very, very strong athlete. I do believe he'll be fine, but if he wants to get into the lead, 9.5s from the judges, 9.5s. But his execution has been exquisite lately. Here we go.
All right, DeRose, there you have it, putting some pressure on Aiden Heslop, trying to push him off the podium, or at least down a couple spots, because we have Paredes and Hunt coming up.
Alessandro De Rose has been blowing my mind. He's got low degree of difficulty compared to the other divers. He's number 11 on the degree of difficulty list, but he just never misses. He's been scoring basically 9s most of the competitions, occasionally 8s, so he hasn't missed a beat. And I'm absolutely curious to see what the judges are going to give this dive. Like I said before, he'll need 9.5s from the judges to take the lead, but that was a sensational dive. What are they going to give it?
Look at the form. That is beautiful right now.
Rock steady, bending the legs, generating the rotation, wrapping across the body to start the twist. Got to pick the right moment to come out of the dive. He's been working with a trampoline coach to get the Barani, which is the last part of the dive we're witnessing there, and that's the most important part. What do they think?
10s, he's got 3 of them, a 9.5, another one of those. So DeRose delivers when he needed an average of 9.5s. Completely crushes it under pressure and moves into the lead with 4:33.95. Outstanding.
Can you believe it? Can you believe it?
Cinco DeRose, Uno DeRose so far.
Now,
Guaranteed podium for De Rose, Jonathan Paredes. Coming up next, followed by Gary Hunt. So De Rose will hang on and see where he will actually stand on that podium. It will be determined by this man and Gary Hunt. Jonathan Paredes will go first. And I'll tell you what, at this point, pressure is privilege.
So Jonathan would need 10s from the judges, but by the way things are going in this competition, anything can happen.
Yeah.
And he scored 10s before.
Beautiful, and the Rip Master with a teeny bit of a splash on that. Probably not going to get the 10s, Joey, that he needs. But nevertheless, a guy who has been struggling with his mental block since the beginning of last year, really coming around, qualifying number 2 coming into this 4th and final round. His 33rd birthday is tomorrow. So in advance, happy birthday, Johnny. Great job today.
The previous rounds, he was just on fire, smoking every single entry. So it's been a while since he's been able to do these dives. So it just takes a little bit more time to get the timing right, particularly on the 1.5 twisting quad. You just got to get the right amount of rotation from the platform. If you throw too hard and go too fast, you can go by and over-rotate. So you just needed to stand up a little taller on the end, but we salute him. Very consistent competition for Jonathan Paredes.
So 105.75. All 4 dives are added together. This is the 4th and final round for the men. Paredes off the podium with 401.75, but he has to be happy. Getting back up there. Working through the mental block. De Rose now guaranteed 2nd place. And Aiden Heslop guaranteed 3rd. Now Gary Hunt, here we go. It's been a long time since we've seen his name off the top of the leaderboard.
He badly wants another win here.
The lead 7.8 by the judges.
Needs 8s from the judges.
Yeah.
Scored 10s on this dive before. He's the last man on the platform. Here we go.
Whoa!
It looked like it was going to rip, and then there was the bubble. But it's hard to tell. The judges are sitting on the side-on position. They're the ones with the prime view to judge the world's elite cliff divers. Here we go, Gary Hunt.
It's the longest Hunt's gone winless since the start of the 2018 season. Well, that changed right now in Oslo.
Such a acrobatic master.
It's like
so smooth.
It's like he lives his life in slow motion.
It just makes it look easy. That is a fine dive. Okay, there's a little bit of a bubble at the end, but the takeoff, the elevation is supreme. He's keeping the legs together in the twist. The way he transitions from the twist into the pike position there and the entry. And that is why he's one of the most decorated cliff divers on the planet. That's a good-looking dive, I dare say. Could be looking at a win here for Gary Hunt.
So 8.5s across. Oh, I got a peek to the side on the other one. That's an 8.5 as well. So 8.5 straight across the board. So Gary Hunt with a total on his 4th and final dive, 132.60. That will do it for Mr. Gary Hunt. And finally getting his first win of the season, 444.90. The brilliant Brit, now fabulous Frenchman, changing his citizenship, is back on top of the podium.
Another winner this season, making it 4 different winners in 2022 for the men. Gary Hunt.
Wow.
What a competition. That was thrilling right to the end, huh?
And how about Alessandro De Rose? The most consistent guy out here this season. 2nd place in Aiden Heslop, showing it why he's strong, winning the first stop of the season, and now back on the podium with the 3rd place here. Freda, impressive, off the podium in 4th, and Jonathan Paredes with a 5th place finish, respectively. So great men's competition here from Oslo. All right, great men's competition. Gary Hunt with the win. He's down with Dave O.C. Dave, take it away, buddy.
All right, so Gary's currently getting surrounded by all the praise. Gary, take a deep breath. We're back here with a winning interview. What changed today?
Well, I managed to put myself in the same situation I was in Copenhagen, and I was not going to make that same mistake again. I felt great here, all competition, and yeah, I'm finding my groove.
And just off camera, you said, now we have the season. How does this set you up for the rest of the Red Bull Cliffdiving World Series?
Well, I'm in the mix, I know that. I don't know where we're at, but 4 competitions, 4 winners. There's never been a season like this, and I'm fired up. Let's go again.
Thank you so much, and congrats.
The most intense season on the men's side brewing here in 2021. Round 1. He was 4th place with this dive, Joey.
Just absolutely brilliant. He really needed that win, and now sitting 2nd in the series rankings currently. This is the intermediate round. He was just on fire. But he's just choosing to stick to the same dives and stay consistent because he knows the other divers are performing incredibly difficult dives. And when you do that, it comes with a lot more risk of not hitting the entries. So this is his game plan. You never know what can happen. We're at the midway point of the season, 4 competitions down, 4 more to go, but a well-deserved win. He just stayed super consistent, really high scores. A remarkable athlete. He's never missed one single competition in the history of the Red Bull Cliffdiving World Series.
Wow.
So it's just amazing that he hasn't suffered a major injury and kept his body together and stayed competitive the whole way through. I mean, this is one of the most remarkable athletes in any sport you'll ever find.
Career victory number 44 and podium number 74 for Gary Hunt, and the 2nd podium for young Aiden Heslop. And he has been mentored by Gary Hunt over the years. It's been his idol, and for the youngster Aiden Heslop to stand up on the podium with his hero Gary Hunt must be a wonderful experience.
And Aiden Heslop was watching the Red Bull Cliffdiving World Series since he was around about 11 or 12 years of age, and he started doing these feet-first landings from 10 meter, and they started with some feet-first competitions with his coach, Fito Gutierrez. So he loves the sport of cliff diving, and he's living out his dream by standing on the podium. But Alessandro De Rose will go to Mostar, Sisikon, Switzerland, and stop number 7. He'll have his home turf or home water advantage in Polignano a Mare, Italy. Oh, and they love him down there. Yeah. So Gary Hunt, in his 88th World Series start, as you mentioned, Joey, never missed one. The only athlete, male or female, never to miss a competition. And I tell you what, for him to stand on top of the podium once again, exciting for the 38-year-old Frenchman. The most decorated and accomplished male in the history of the Red Bull Cliffdiving World Series, picking up some pace here midway through the season. And he's only 30 points behind Predator in the series ranking, so now he's back in the mix. And I've never seen a season like this with so many different winners. Competition is really shaping up. You can only slow him down so long. So Preda still holds down the #1 spot with 600 points in the overall series points, but Gary Hunt now moving into 2nd place, and Heslop up there in the mix, De Rose, and now Popovich in 5th. He's got some work to do. Jonathan Paredes, though, really doing a nice job coming back once again from some mental blocks at the beginning of last season. Kulturi, he's injured in the United States. It's in 9th, so won't see him for several competitions. Once again, huge competition in Oslo, Norway. And a beautiful day at the Oslo Opera House. Stop 5, though.
heads to Bosnia and Herzegovina, one of the favorite locations for many of the World Series divers. I mean, the diving tradition is so cool, and in fact, it dates back centuries off the iconic bridge called the Starry Most, which means the old bridge of Mostar. What an epic spot. Great old footage, and the locals are still flying off that thing. And now in modern times, it's the only stop of the season, Joey, where the divers enter into a river and having to deal with the flowing current and the cold waters makes it unique to other stops around the globe.
Beautiful location, 600 years of history from diving off the bridge. And I dove there actually in 2004 for the reopening of the bridge, which was reconstructed. And the atmosphere there is just incredible. They love this sport, and it's a real treat for them to see the world's best cliff divers.
And that all goes down live on August 27th. So for more information, keep up with redbullcliffdiving.com. All right, that's all for today's coverage from Oslo, Norway. And until our next stop, on behalf of Joey Zuber, David O.C., and our entire production team, I'm Trace Worthington. Thanks a lot for watching. See you later.
This season,